Hey, legend lovers, I'm your host, Keith Baxter, and you're listening to Obscure Legends. If you're new here, welcome. If you're a returning listener, you know the drill. Lock your doors, turn on the lights, and maybe think twice before answering any late-night knocks. Today, we're diving into a legend that's been spreading like wildfire across the internet and beyond. It's a story that might make you second-guess every child you see after dark. A tale that could turn a simple knock at the door into your worst nightmare. Imagine this. It's late. You're home alone. There's a knock at the door. You open it to find a child standing there. But something's off. Their skin is too pale, their stance too rigid. And their eyes are completely, utterly black. These are the black-eyed children, and they want to come inside. Are you ready to explore one of the most chilling urban legends of the 21st century? Then stick around because this episode of Obscure Legends is about to take you on a journey into the heart of modern-day paranormal terror. Let's dive in. The legend of black-eyed children, a global phenomenon. Picture this. It's a quiet night and you're comfortably settled in your home. The world outside is dark and still. Suddenly, there's a knock at the door. You weren't expecting anyone, especially not at this late hour. Peering through the peephole or window, you see what appears to be a child standing on your doorstep. But as you look closer, something seems off. The child's posture is unnaturally rigid, their skin pale and lifeless. And then you see their eyes, completely black, like endless voids staring back at you. These are the black-eyed children, and they want to come inside. The legend of the black-eyed children, also known as black-eyed kids or backs, is a relatively modern urban legend that has gained significant traction in the digital age. Unlike many traditional folklore tales that can be traced back centuries, this eerie phenomenon first emerged in the late 1990s and has since spread globally, thanks in large part to the internet. The first widely publicized account of black-eyed children came from journalist Brian Bethel in 1998. Bethel wrote about his unsettling encounter with two children with completely black eyes in Abilene, Texas. His story, posted online, sparked a wave of similar reports from around the world, turning what might have been an isolated incident into a widespread urban legend. These entities are typically described as children or teenagers with pale skin and completely black eyes, lacking both iris and white sclera. They often appear at night, knocking on doors or approaching people in cars, asking to be let in. Their requests may seem innocent enough, but those who encounter them report an overwhelming sense of dread and the unshakable feeling that something is terribly wrong. As the legend has grown, it has incorporated elements of various supernatural beliefs, from vampire lore to alien abduction theories. Some view the black-eyed children as a modern twist on changeling myths, while others see them as a manifestation of contemporary fears about child predators or the loss of innocence in youth. Let's delve deeper into the chilling world of black-eyed children encounters, exploring some of the most spine-tingling reports from around the globe. The Abilene incident, Brian Bethel's encounter. We begin where it all started. Abilene, Texas, 1998. Brian Bethel, a journalist, was sitting in his car in a cinema parking lot, writing checks by the light of the marquee. It was around 10 p.m. when he heard a tap on his driver's side window. He looked up to see two boys, perhaps 10 to 14 years old, standing there. At first, Bethel thought they might be asking for directions or spare change, but as he rolled down his window, an inexplicable feeling of dread washed over him. The boys asked if they could get a ride home to fetch money so they could see a movie. Their mannerisms were oddly adult-like, their voices too mature for their apparent age. As Bethel fumbled for an excuse, he glanced at their eyes and froze. Where there should have been whites and colored irises, there was only pitch blackness. The boys became increasingly insistent, saying they couldn't enter the car unless Bethel invited them in. At this point, Bethel's fear overtook him. He quickly started his car and drove away, looking back to see the boys had vanished. Bethel's account, shared online, opened the floodgates for similar stories worldwide. The Vermont gas station incident. In 2012, a gas station attendant in Vermont reported a terrifying late-night encounter. It was close to midnight, and he was alone in the store when two children, a boy and a girl who appeared to be around 10 years old, approached the door. The attendant found it strange that children would be out so late unaccompanied. As they got closer, he noticed their unnaturally pale skin and odd robotic movements. When they reached the door, they stood perfectly still, staring at him with completely black eyes. They asked to use the phone, claiming their mother was coming to pick them up. Despite their polite words, the attendant felt an overwhelming sense of danger. He refused to let them in, and they became increasingly agitated, demanding entry. The standoff lasted for nearly an hour before the children suddenly turned and walked away into the darkness. The attendant later discovered that the security cameras had malfunctioned during the exact time frame of the incident, leaving no video evidence of the encounter. The London Tube sighting. In 2013, a late-night commuter on the London Underground reported a chilling experience. The last train of the night was nearly empty when it pulled into a station. A group of 3 teenagers boarded, 2 boys and a girl, all dressed in outdated, almost Victorian-style clothing. As they walked down the carriage, the commuter noticed their strange, synchronized movements. When they sat down across from him, he saw their eyes, completely black and seeming to absorb all light. The teens stared at him unblinkingly for the entire journey. When the train reached the end of the line, the commuter hurriedly exited. To his horror, he realized the teens were following him. As he quickened his pace, he heard their unnaturally even footsteps behind him. Just as he reached the station exit, he heard a young girl's voice say, "We just want to go home. Won't you help us?" He ran without looking back, and when he finally dared to turn around, the station was empty. The Australian Outback Encounter. In 2015, a family traveling through the Australian Outback had a terrifying experience at a remote rest stop. It was nearing dusk when they pulled over to stretch their legs. Their young daughter noticed 2 children standing at the edge of the parking area, partially obscured by scrub brush. The parents were immediately concerned, as there were no other vehicles around and the nearest town was miles away. As they approached to offer help, they noticed the children's unnaturally pale skin and rigid postures. When the children turned to face them, the family was horrified to see their pitch-black eyes. The children spoke in unison, asking for a ride to the next town. Despite their initial concern for the children's welfare, the family was overwhelmed by a sense of danger. They quickly got back in their car and drove away, watching in the rearview mirror as the children stood motionless, their black eyes seeming to follow the car until it disappeared from view. The family reported the incident to local authorities, but no trace of the children was ever found. The Canadian cabin incident. In a remote area of British Columbia, a man living alone in a cabin reported repeated visits from black-eyed children over the course of several weeks in the winter of 2017. It began with knocks on his door late at night. When he looked out, he saw 2 children standing in the snow, their eyes completely black. They asked to come in, saying they were lost and cold. Despite his initial impulse to help, the man felt an overwhelming sense of dread and refused. This scenario repeated several times over the following weeks, always at night, always with the same 2 children. On the final night, the man awoke to find the children standing at the foot of his bed, their black eyes gleaming in the darkness. They spoke in unison, saying, "You can't keep us out forever." When the man blinked, they were gone. The next day, he packed up and left the cabin, never to return. Interestingly, subsequent owners of the property have reported no unusual occurrences. The Florida beach sighting. In the summer of 2019, a group of teenagers having a late-night beach party in Florida reported a bizarre encounter. As they sat around a bonfire, they noticed 2 younger kids walking along the shoreline. It was well past midnight, and the teens were concerned about children being out alone so late. As the children approached the group, the teens noticed their unusually pale skin and stiff movements. When they got close enough for the firelight to illuminate their faces, the group was horrified to see their completely black eyes. The children asked to join the group around the fire, saying they were cold. Despite the warm Florida night, the teens felt a sudden chill. They refused, and the children became increasingly insistent, their voices taking on an older, more menacing tone. The standoff ended when one of the teens threw sand at the black-eyed children. To their shock, the children seemed to dissolve into the darkness, leaving no footprints in the sand where they had stood. The Tokyo apartment visit. In late 2020, During the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, a woman living alone in a Tokyo apartment building reported a disturbing late-night visitor. She was awakened by a knock on her door around 2 a.m. Looking through the peephole, she saw a young girl in a school uniform, her head bowed. Concerned that a child might be in trouble, the woman opened the door slightly, keeping the chain on. The girl looked up, revealing completely black eyes. She asked to come inside, saying she needed to use the phone because her mother was sick with the virus. The woman, terrified, began to close the door, but it seemed to stick. As she struggled with it, the girl's voice changed, becoming deeper and more insistent. Finally, the woman managed to slam the door shut and called the police. When the authorities arrived, they found no trace of the girl. However, they did discover strange, unidentifiable scratches on the outside of the woman's door. Theories and explanations. As with many urban legends, there are numerous theories attempting to explain the black-eyed children phenomenon. Some of the most prevalent include 1. Supernatural entities. Many believe that black-eyed children are not human at all, but rather some form of supernatural being. Theories range from demons to vampires to otherworldly entities. 2. Alien hybrids. Some ufologists suggest that black-eyed children could be the result of human-alien hybridization experiments, explaining their human appearance but distinctly non-human eyes. 3. Government experiments. Conspiracy theorists propose that these children could be the result of secret government experiments, possibly related to mind control or genetic manipulation. 4. Mass hysteria. Skeptics argue that the black-eyed children phenomenon is a form of mass hysteria, fueled by the internet and our innate fear of the unknown. 5. Hoaxes and misidentification. Some incidents may be elaborate hoaxes or cases of misidentification, possibly involving individuals with rare medical conditions affecting eye appearance. 6. Modern folklore. Anthropologists and folklorists suggest that black-eyed children represent a modern incarnation of changeling myths, reflecting contemporary anxieties about children and innocence. 7. Sleep paralysis. Some researchers propose that at least some black-eyed children encounters could be explained by sleep paralysis, a phenomenon where individuals experience vivid, often terrifying hallucinations while partially awake. The spread of the legend. The black-eyed children legend has spread rapidly in the digital age, evolving and adapting as it travels across different cultures. Social media, online forums, and video sharing platforms have played a crucial role in disseminating these stories. The legend has inspired numerous works of fiction, including books, short stories, and films. This has further blurred the line between reported encounters and fictional accounts, adding to the mystique of the phenomenon. Interestingly, as the legend has spread globally, it has begun to incorporate elements of local folklore and supernatural beliefs. In some Asian countries, for instance, black-eyed children encounters have been linked to traditional ghost stories and beliefs about wandering spirits. The impact on witnesses. Those who claim to have encountered black-eyed children often report lasting psychological effects. Many describe a persistent feeling of unease, nightmares, and a lingering sense that they narrowly escaped something truly sinister. Some witnesses report experiencing unusual phenomena in the aftermath of their encounters, such as electronic malfunctions, unexplained noises in their homes, or a feeling of being watched. Psychologists have noted that these reported after effects bear similarities to those experienced by individuals who believe they've had supernatural or alien encounters. This has led some researchers to suggest that black-eyed children encounters might be a modern manifestation of age-old human fears and anxieties. The legend of the black-eyed children continues to evolve and spread, capturing the imagination and fear of people around the world. Whether these encounters are the result of supernatural phenomena, misidentification, or an elaborate modern myth, they tap into primal human fears, the corruption of innocence, the unknown lurking in the darkness, and the vulnerability we feel in our own homes. As we've explored these chilling tales from around the globe, one question remains. What do you think really happened in these encounters? Are black-eyed children a genuine paranormal phenomenon, a product of our collective imagination, or something in between? The next time you hear an unexpected knock at your door late at night, will you answer? And if you do, what will you see staring back?